Ryan Wheeler, Casey Holdahl, Trailblazers Courtside. Pleased to be joined in studio by the Dean of Portland Sports Media, Kerry Eggers. As if his day wasn't long enough, covering the first day of Beavers practice, he graciously comes in studio with us. How'd the Beavs look?
Like Nick Batum, I'm a swingman, Wheels.
Yes, you are. You're very versatile. Very versatile.
You're a tan man, too.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think their offensive line's the biggest question mark, and Isaac Seumalo, their center, is in a boot right now. That's not a good thing. So we'll see, but I think they're going to be a pretty competitive group.
Offensive line was the biggest question mark last year, right?
It was, and the running game was lousy, and they needed to be better.
Yes, that's good. That's coach speak, Case. They want a football camp.
Scratching the itch, yeah.
So the question we asked Chris Kamen will ask you, have you seen the Paul George injury yet?
You know, I have not, Wheels, and I don't think I want to. It reminds me just hearing about it like the Joe Theismann injury.
Very similar.
Casey, I don't know if you got the chance to see it, but I know you were down there.
I was there. I actually didn't see it. I had just been moved out of the way, so I couldn't see it.
You just hate to hear about something like that, and you hope, now Sean Livingston came back from something similar. Maybe he can do the same thing.
From an editorial standpoint, as a reporter, ESPN made the decision during the commercial break after it had happened. I saw it live. They came back, and at that point, of course, we didn't know how serious the injury was, but certainly it didn't look good seeing the action of it. They decided not to show the replay of it. They went to the ESPN Sports Center. They showed it once at the top of the program. We made an editorial decision not to show it tonight. Is that the right decision? Should you maybe give a warning that this is pretty graphic and put it out there if people want to see it, or do you just assume there's enough other places for people to see if they want to?
I like the idea of showing it maybe once or twice, and that's it, given the opportunity. Those who want to see it, they can see it, but not blasting you with time after time after time. I think it was the right move.
Yeah, and I mean, just in general, too, it seems like more and more now, even with commercials, like for movies, those show things that are grotesque at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't have kids, so I guess I don't worry about it as much. Maybe some other people do, but it seems like there's a level of desensitization to it. That's not even a word,
yes.
but basically I'm glad they didn't show it. I don't want to watch it, and I'm not going to search out to see it. And like you said, at this point, if you want to see something, you can go find it yourself. It's not an impediment anymore.
The really interesting thing to me was that they seized the play at that point. They didn't continue the game. That shows the respect for Paul George and the injury that he suffered.
Yeah, it did. Now, and then, of course, as we talked about earlier, it sparked Mark Cuban to step forward with his argument about internet or pro NBA players in international competition. It gave him some ammunition, but as we've discussed, it certainly seems like an injury that could have happened anywhere.
Yeah, and it could. And part of Cuban's gripe, Wheels, is that, hey, the IOC makes all this money, that the guys ought to be paid if they're going to play. I think that's what he was saying. But the money that comes to the IOC, I think, is all from TV money, right? And I assume that it's spread out through all of the organizing committees. So I don't know exactly what his gripe is. Cuban likes to make noise and see what sticks on the wall, and I don't know.
Well, and it's one of those things where he's saying that, well, it's not the Olympics isn't this altruistic competition. It's about money, and that's he could be right. But to the players, it's about representing your country.
Sure
It's not about the money. Yeah. So while maybe the whole idea of the Olympics is farce, for the players, it's not. I mean, it's you're representing your country.
There's certainly a professional aspect to it, but in the end, it's wearing that red, white, and blue. I think that's the most important thing.
Not that Paul George isn't a terrific player and he's an all-star and so forth. If it had happened to LeBron James, do you think the conversation would be any more serious about? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if at this point you can backtrack and not have pro players anymore in the Olympics after going this long with having them there. But I just wonder if, and again, not to diminish George's skill, if it was the best player in the game that got hurt in this situation, would that give anybody any more ammunition for the argument to not have the players in?
Every player can choose not to play. LaMarcus Aldridge is one of them. There's been several players. Kevin Love is another for various reasons. Blake Griffin. So it's up to them to make the decision, and I think that's the way it should be.
Tony Parker, too, internationally as well. The guys who, internationally, I think there's an assumption that they always want to play more than the United States players do, which I think is odd. But yeah, guys sit out competitions all the time for various reasons, so it's their choice.
Should a team have the right to tell their player whether they can or can't play?
The team has a heck of an investment, and so I think they should be involved in the conversation. But in the end, I think it's down to the player.
Remember, Michael Jordan had that love of the game clause in his contract where he said, if I'm driving down the street and I see a pickup game he was allowed to go play if he wanted to, and the Bulls couldn't do anything about it. And what are you going to say to the greatest player in the game that this is going to interfere with us wanting to keep you? I doubt that would happen. So I think again the players have some leverage in this respect if they do want to play. And some people I think get to the question about when you get to this World Cup versus the Olympics. Are some guys we don't see LeBron James in this competition, but he'll be back, you would think, for the Olympics. So some of the really star players seem to sit out this, but for a guy like Damian Lillard, this means a lot to be in this competition.
Well, and that's how you get to the Olympics. That's how Jerry Colangelo has kind of structured the setting now, is to get to the Olympics, you have to play in the World Championship, or you have to be in, or you don't have to be, but they really prefer that you're in the system and you get some international experience first, and then you get a chance to go to the Olympics. And here in the United States, it's a bit different. Other countries will tell you that the World Championships are more important. Particularly Spain will tell you that because they've actually won the World Championships. But in the United States, it's the Olympics. That's what people know. That's what people are familiar with, and that's the pride, or the big event that the guys get the pride from, that they want to be involved in. So you got to start somewhere, and for a guy like Damian Lillard, you have to start trying to make the World Cup roster.
What do you think of his chances to make it?
Well, we were just talking off air. If they decide to keep 4 point guards, which with the attrition of players, I guess is a possibility, he makes it. But otherwise, he's got to beat out Steph Curry, Derrick Rose, or
Kyrie Irving.
And that's a heavy order. I mean, those are 3 of the very best guards in the world, point guards in the world. So Damian can play some too, but he's not shot particularly well in the tournament. Maybe they overlook that and say, hey, the guy's going to help us a lot. I'm not sure.
Well, and it was a little strange in the scrimmage, because in practices, Damian played almost exclusively off the ball. Basically, every time that he was playing with another guard, and they would kind of go back and forth. Okay. In that scrimmage, he played the point. And I think he was actually probably a little, not miffed about it, but I think he was surprised that he didn't actually get to play a little bit off the ball more. I think that was something he wanted to show that he could do, because he knows he's going to have to do that if he's going to make that team.
And then I wonder, how much was Korver one of the guys cut today?
Korver was not cut today.
Okay, so how much premium do they put on a guy who's a long ball shooter like that? Does he fill the 11th or 12th role? I mean, there's going to be a lot of question marks there.
Well, and especially a guy like Korver now with Paul George out, is he's more of a small forward, and they're at small forward and at power forward, they're thin at both forwards, exactly. So it might be a point now where they maybe take a guy who maybe isn't as talented or don't even like as much, but he can guard a small forward.
I gained a little more respect for Chandler Parsons, considering what you said, that he was asked many times about Lillard's shot
over and over
and was gracious enough to talk about it. But he said Harden wouldn't talk about it.
Harden was not interested in talking about it, which, like I had mentioned, I don't blame the guy.
Right.
But Parsons, it was great. He laughed about it. He was like, I'm going to live with it forever. He was really he had told Damian that he had felt that his quote about being the best small forward during the series had been misconstrued, and so then he was having a conversation with the reporter who reported that, and they were having some fun with it. So it was nice to see these guys. Usually they're going against each other, to be around each other and kind of enjoy each other's company.
I heard Casey's comment about some of the players. It was interesting to talk to players from the other team. I always feel the same way. And some of them don't seem like they're so interested in talking to you. Harden is a poster boy for that. I mean, on a good night, and during the series, if you remember, he was great the night that they won. And the nights that they lost, I don't really want to talk.
The infamous Fran Blineberry weirdo comment.
There you go.
Too, so Though like I had said, before we had talked to Harden, he had just got done answering some questions about, was there beef between him and Chandler Parsons? Was he getting along with Dwight Howard? So I think he was already kind of in a foul mood anyways.
Defensive.
And then me and Chris Haynes and Joe Freeman are all standing around him asking him about the shot that knocked him out of the playoffs. So on one hand I get it, on the other hand too, like I was saying, I wouldn't want to talk to me either for the most part. So
I have my own opinion, but Kerry, you've talked to so many athletes and coaches over the year. Who would you say is if we make a general statement, normally the least cooperative group from what sport would you say the least cooperative group would come from?
Wow, that's a good question.
The four major ones.
Are we counting Ducks football? Because that's got to be.
That's not their problem. That's the administration, the coaches.
Oh, we're talking about players and coaches. Okay.
Right. So if we just in general say football, basketball, baseball, hockey.
It's not hockey. and I don't think it's basketball. So now you're down to football and baseball. And baseball does a pretty darn good job. I'm going up tomorrow to see the Mariners and the Braves. They open at 3:30. Most of the guys are available. It's great. So I'm going to say NFL because there's a limit on how many days you can get to talk to them, much more so than the other sports.
So you base it on access.
Access, yeah. They're fairly cooperative, and really they're good guys to talk. I think all the sports, the majority of the guys, Wheels, are pretty darn good to talk to.
Yeah. I found baseball to be the worst. And maybe, I don't know if that's because they have to talk every day or they're more spoiled along the way. I'm not sure. I think hockey's the best.
The best.
Your experience?
Well, I was just going to say that, I mean, for the most part, like you said, it's just access more than anything. I mean, like players are players and they're people. And, you're going to run up against some guys who don't want to talk and who might not like you for a particular reason. And you're going to run up against guys who are great. But it's just the opportunity to talk to those guys. I think it's what most journalists just want. They just want the chance to actually have a chance.
By the way, I got to say this, and I know you guys have been around for a while too. This group of Blazers is one of the best ever for media. And the last few years, there's not been one of those guys that won't talk before the game. And is there another club in the NBA you can say that about? I mean,
no, probably not. And I had a coach that's very accommodating.
Absolutely. So kudos to them.
And they'll be honest too. That's the part with me. If you don't like something I do, just tell me, and we can talk about it. And I feel like our guys do that.
Some of the starters still hide out.
Yeah, well,
But when you get them, they're good.
Yeah. Kerry, thanks for the visit. Tell everybody how they can follow you on Twitter.
At Kerry Eggers.
Oh.